Elijah had just witnessed fire fall from heaven. He had stood alone on Mount Carmel, facing hundreds of prophets, and God answered him in power. The people cried out, "The Lord, He is God." It should have been the moment of victory, the moment everything finally made sense. But Scripture tells us something unexpected. After the miracle, Elijah ran, not toward celebration, not toward rest, but into fear. When Queen Jezebel threatened his life, Elijah fled into the wilderness. The same prophet who had called down fire now sat under a broom tree, exhausted, afraid, and broken. He prayed a prayer many of us recognize but rarely admit out loud. "Lord, I have had enough. Take my life." This is where the story becomes deeply human. Elijah wasn't weak because he felt afraid. He was human. After spiritual highs often come emotional lows. After moments of great faith can come seasons of deep weariness. And God does not rebuke Elijah for feeling this way. Instead, God meets him with gentleness. An angel touches Elijah and says, "Get up and eat." Not a sermon, not a correction, just provision. Bread baked over hot coals, a jar of water, and rest. Sometimes the most spiritual thing God does is let you sleep. Elijah eats, drinks, and lies down again. The angel returns and says, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." God acknowledges the weight Elijah is carrying. He does not deny it. He does not minimize it. Strengthened by that food, Elijah travels 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, the same mountain where Moses once stood in God's presence. There, Elijah hides in a cave, and the word of the Lord comes to him with a simple question. "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Not because God doesn't know, but because Elijah needs to say it out loud. Elijah pours out his heart. He speaks of his faithfulness, his loneliness, his fear. He believes he is the only one left. He believes the story is over. Then God tells Elijah something extraordinary. "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." What follows is not what Elijah expects. A powerful wind tears the mountains apart, rocks shatter, but the Lord is not in the wind. An earthquake shakes the ground, but the Lord is not in the earthquake. A fire follows, but the Lord is not in the fire. Elijah had seen fire before. He knew God could move in dramatic ways, but this time God was teaching him something new. And then, after the fire, came a sound, a gentle whisper, a still, small voice, and when Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and stepped forward. Because this time he recognized the presence of God. God was not absent in Elijah's fear. God was not distant in his exhaustion. God was not disappointed in his weakness. He was present, quietly, patiently, speaking not through spectacle, but through intimacy. And this whisper would change everything. The whisper did not overwhelm Elijah. It did not shout him into obedience or scare him into faith. It invited him closer. When Elijah heard the gentle voice, he wrapped his cloak around his face and stepped out of the cave. In Scripture, this moment matters. Elijah had endured wind, earthquake, and fire without moving. But the whisper drew him out. God speaks again. "What are you doing here, Elijah?" The question is repeated, not to accuse, but to reveal. Elijah answers the same way as before. He still feels alone. He still believes he has failed. His circumstances have not changed, but now he is standing in the presence of God. And this is where restoration begins. God does not dismiss Elijah's pain, but he also does not let Elijah stay trapped in it. Instead of debating Elijah's feelings, God gives him direction, purpose, a next step. Go back the way you came. These words are powerful. God is not telling Elijah to abandon his calling. He is inviting him back into it. Fear had pushed Elijah forward into isolation, but God calls him back into alignment. God instructs Elijah to anoint new leaders, to prepare the future, and to pass on what he has received. Elijah's story is not ending. It is expanding. His obedience will outlive his fear. Then God gently corrects Elijah's greatest lie. "I have reserved 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal." Elijah thought he was alone. He thought he was the last one standing. But God reveals that Elijah was never as isolated as he believed. This moment matters for anyone who feels forgotten. God sees what you cannot. He is working beyond what you know. Faithfulness does not always feel visible, but it is never wasted. Elijah's strength was not restored through noise or spectacle. It was restored through truth, through the quiet reminder that God is still sovereign, still present, still moving, even when the world feels overwhelming. Elijah leaves the mountain different than he arrived, not louder, not stronger in the eyes of the world, but steadier, grounded, re-anchored in purpose. The whisper did not make Elijah famous, it made him faithful. And often, that is exactly how God works. He meets us not in the chaos we expect, but in the stillness we avoid. He speaks not to impress us, but to transform us. And when we listen, even quietly, our direction begins to change. Elijah's journey was not about escaping fear. It was about learning where God truly speaks. And the same God who whispered to Elijah still speaks today. Elijah does not leave the mountain with applause, he leaves with clarity. After the whisper, there is no thunderous ending, no public celebration, no sudden reversal of circumstances. Instead, Elijah walks forward quietly, carrying something far more powerful than spectacle: obedience shaped by intimacy. God sends Elijah back into the world, not as a man chasing miracles, but as a servant rooted in trust. He anoints kings, he sets the future in motion, he prepares what will come after him. And eventually, God leads him to Elisha, the one who will walk beside him, learn from him, and carry the mantle when Elijah's journey is complete. This is how God restores Elijah, not by removing his past fear, but by giving his future meaning. Elijah had believed he was alone. He believed the burden was his alone to carry. But God gently corrected him, not with rebuke, but with truth. 7,000 faithful remained. Work was still unfolding beyond what Elijah could see. God was never finished, even when Elijah felt finished. And this matters deeply for us, because many people today feel just like Elijah did, exhausted, overwhelmed, spiritually drained. We live in a world of noise, pressure, and constant comparison. We expect God to speak loudly, clearly, instantly, and when he doesn't, we assume he is distant. But Elijah's story tells us something different. God is not absent when life is quiet. He is not silent because he is disappointed. He is not gone because you feel weak. Sometimes God lowers the volume, not to punish us, but to draw us closer. The whisper was not weakness. It was closeness. God knew Elijah did not need more fire. He needed reassurance. He needed rest. He needed to know that his faithfulness still mattered, even when it felt small and unseen. And God met him exactly there. If you are weary today, if you feel like you've given everything and still feel empty, if you are running, not from sin, but from exhaustion, God sees you. He may not speak through dramatic moments. He may not answer the way you expect, but he is near. Sometimes God speaks through silence, sometimes through rest, sometimes through a simple next step rather than a full explanation. And when the noise finally fades, when striving quiets, when you stop demanding answers and simply listen, you may hear him too, not in fear, not in force, but in peace. A whisper that says, "You are not alone. You are not forgotten. The journey is not over." A whisper that restores strength without shouting. A whisper that carries you forward when you have nothing left. The same God who whispered to Elijah still speaks today. And if you are still enough to listen, that whisper will be enough.